Common Council meeting for the City of Wausau. Welcome, everybody. The first item on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Next up is roll call.
We have 11 voting members present.
All right, thank you. Next up is proclamations. I have a commendation, and I think I'm going to read this one tonight. Whereas Anthony Scully Earl, known as Tony, was born April 12th, 1936 in St. Ignatius, Michigan, and whereas Tony Earl was elected the 41st governor of Wisconsin in 1983 and held the office for 4 years, and whereas Tony Earl started his career as the assistant district attorney of Marathon County, serving from 1965 to 1966, and whereas Tony Earl next served the city of Wausau as the city attorney from 1966 to 1969, and whereas Tony Earl was then elected to serve in the Wisconsin State Assembly, during that tenure, he served as the majority leader. He then served as the secretary of the Wisconsin Department of Administration and then the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources. And whereas during both his time as governor and as the secretary of the DNR, he was supportive of stewardship and conservation and was on several committees focused on these topics, such as the EPA's subcommittee on energy, clean air, and climate change. And whereas Tony Earl is remembered as a staunch politician who stood by his beliefs, yet retained friendships with members of both political parties. And whereas Tony Earl passed away February 23rd, 2023, at the age of 86. And whereas Tony Earl is survived by his 4 daughters, Julia, Anne, Maggie, and Kitty, and 11 grandchildren. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Katie Rosenberg, Mayor of the City of Wausau, State of Wisconsin, do hereby commend Tony Earls for his service and dedication to our city, county, and state. All right. Next up, we have our consent agenda. However, just kidding. We're going to start with public comment, and we have one person has registered, Jason Crick.
Good evening. My name is Jason Crick. I have a public comment about the supervised visitation program over at the Children's Wisconsin over by Applebee's. It got defunded. Maybe it was a COVID situation and everyone went virtual, but they have supervised visitation, but it's a drive, and with climate change, the roads are becoming more unpredictable, and a lot of mothers don't have the best car because they find that they have less money after the divorce. So then they have a car that's in bad repair, and then they have to go down these highways with unpredictable weather patterns, and it's compulsory. They can get in trouble. They can get some type of criminal action. So it's not fair to the mothers of these children, and it's not safe for the children to go on these long distance drives just to visit their fathers. So I think at this time, now that the COVID emergency is wrapping up, that you should work with your colleagues at the county to reinitiate supervised visitation.
Thank you. All right, next on our agenda is the consent agenda. However, I am pulling out file number 221108, so we can vote on that separately. But other than that, I would entertain a motion for the consent agenda, file number 230201 through file number 230214. It looks like I have a motion by Alder Larson and a second by Alder Henke. Is there any discussion? I'm not seeing any.
You may begin voting. Motion passes 11-0.
Thank you very much. All right. Next up is our file number 221108. It's a resolution from the Economic Development Committee approving termination of recorded deed restrictions for 110 South 84th Avenue, I'm going to pass this over to the city attorney to give a little brief on what this is.
Thank you, Mayor. When this first came to the ED committee, the attorney representing the developer, Wausau Coded, asked that we remove, if you see the deed restrictions attached in the back, 1A that talked about commencing construction within 1 year, and I think you remember talking about that. And then your committee recommended passing that on to council. Then the attorney contacted me and said, oh, well, we want you to get rid of 1B also, which requires they complete construction within 2 years, and indicated that time was sort of the essence. So I said, I'll take it to council without it going back to committee, and we'll take a motion in a second, and then I would ask that somebody make a motion to amend this resolution to either say that we're terminating the deed restriction regarding commencement and completion of, commencement of construction within 1 year and completion within 2, or simply just the restrictions contained in paragraph 1 of the deed restrictions would be my request. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We do have a motion by Alder Rasmussen, a second by Alder Herbst. Alder Rasmussen.
Thank you. I'll make the motion to amend to remove the restrictions for commencement and completion. The use of the property is a parking lot, so as the facilities needs dictate, they should be able to build on their own timeline. And I think we determined in the ED committee that we had no additional or other alternative use for the property. So I'll offer that amendment.
Okay. All right, we have a motion by Alder Rasmussen to amend. Do you need her to push the button?
Nope, she did.
Okay, and then a second by Alder Denny, I guess. Then we're just trying to get this right.
And that was to remove the restrictions to build.
For commencement and completion of construction.
Yep.
Just want to make sure our record is right. Thank you. Is there any discussion on this amendment? I'm not seeing any.
You may begin voting. Motion passes 11-0.
All right, now we are on to the motion as amended. Is there any further commentary on this? I'm not seeing anybody.
You may begin voting. Motion passes 11-0.
All right, thank you very much. Now we are on to file number 230203, Mayor's appointments. We have one. It's Arlene Katz to the Board of Zoning Appeals. Looks like I have a motion by Alder Watson and a second by Alder Lukens. Is there any discussion? I don't see any.
You may begin voting. Motion passes 11-0.
All righty. Last up, public comment and suggestions. If there's anybody here that needed to make a public comment or a suggestion, you're welcome. Okay, with that, I guess I would entertain our final, looks like we have a motion by Alder Watson and a second by Alder Lukens. All those in favor can signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. We are adjourned, everyone. Thanks.